Okay, we're live with the Main Street Show.
Good morning. Welcome to the Main Street Live Show. This is Gary Washer, and I have a very special guest with me today. Her name is Sandy Griffin. She is somebody I've gotten to know recently, and she works with the ministry with homeless. And let me give you a little bit of background about Sandy. She is a life coach, and she helps people make sense of their own lives and getting past obstacles that keep them from achieving God's big plan for their life. Sandy Griffin moved to Nashville from Chicago 8 years ago to help plant a church. As a professional speaker, Sandy was voted in as the president of the National Speakers Association of Tennessee, which is pretty good for being somebody who is an outsider coming to the South. Growing up in a family with 11 siblings, Sandy faced life tough lessons at a young age, losing both parents at ages 57 and 58, having survived 3 bouts with cancer, ending a 20-year abusive marriage, sharing the shame of a 30-year compulsive eating disorder on the 700 Club. And Sandy uses God's grace and life lessons to teach and help others. Her servant's heart had her in Waveland, Mississippi 3 times right after Hurricane Katrina, in Haiti after the earthquake, and homes in the Nashville area for 9 months after the flood. And to pay the bill, Sandy is a certified holistic life coach, helping people make sense of their own lives. She coaches people in the States by phone. She has clients in even South Africa, London, and she coaches by Skype. And in her free time, Sandy is a tireless advocate of the poor, needy, and homeless. Now, before I get into the interview, I want to just do a brief overview of her actual, what she actually does with the homeless, with poor. Basically what she does is she provides what it takes to make a house into a home, getting free medical care, dental care when needed, getting free eye exams, glasses, contacts, eye surgery, getting tickets to concerts, sporting events, cultural events, and getting people to buy snacks to make it extra special, supplying homes with food, receiving resources from everywhere, saying no to nothing being offered because God will use it, praying with people when needed, by phone, in person, marrying people, sitting day after day with people in hospice, organizing travelers, flight attendants, pilots all over the U.S. to collect hotel toiletries and send them to her, and also hotels and getting them to donate blankets and comforters when they buy new ones. So, with that being said, and the basic overview of what we're going to be talking about today, hi, Sandy.
Hi, I'm exhausted listening to that.
I know it's a lot, isn't it? But before we get started, I want to ask you real quick, if somebody wants to get in contact with you, what would be the best ways to contact you?
Well, first of all, Facebook is a real good way. I have a Facebook site. It's Sandy Griffin, and I have 22,000 people that follow me on that because I write a motivational post every day. Or they can go to sandy@sandygriffin.com, or they can email me at sjgriff2002@yahoo.com, or they can call me at 615-339-3100. I love talking to people, especially if they want to help.
And that's an open invitation, everybody. So,
yes.
I mean, take advantage of that, because I know that a lot of times, in my experience with life coaches and people who are coaching, they're available, but people are just often don't call because they're afraid or don't want to bother them, and so she's throwing that invitation out there. Give her a call.
Please do.
Now, have you been interested in homeless your whole life, or is this something that just came up in recent years, or how did that all get started?
Well, it's funny because I'm not quite sure when I really jumped into it and into the deep end, but I went to Haiti right after the earthquake.
Okay.
And I went with the group Audio Adrenaline, and Will McGinnis is a real good friend of mine, the bass player. While we were there, they have an orphanage, and he said to me that when I come back, he wants me to meet this one guy, Brett Swain with Lamb's Croft Ministries. Well, I trust Will so much that I said, okay, I'll meet him. And so I met Brett without knowing what he did, and he served the homeless. Before that, I do have a servant's heart, and before that, I was speaking at Room in the Inn, and but I hadn't given my heart to the homeless. But after I met Brett and I saw what he was doing with the homeless, and I got to know the homeless one-on-one, it was like I looked forward to being with the homeless more than anything.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Were you ever homeless in your life at all?
I wasn't homeless,
okay.
But you know what? I grew up in a family of, when my dad died, there were 9 kids at home.
Yeah.
And my mother still had those kids to raise, and then right after the youngest one graduated from high school, a couple of months later, she died of mad cow disease. But so we've always been aware that we didn't have what other people had. So
Yes.
I've always had a heart for the underdog.
Okay. Now, I know that you have 3 daughters.
I do.
What do they think about what you do, and also that you house homeless people in your own house? I mean, what do they think about that? Do they say, like, Mom, what are you doing? Are you crazy? Or are they just all on board? Or?
Gary, I think they did for a number of years, and then they realized that it's who I am. And my daughter, I have a daughter that lives here and 2 that are in California, and the one that lives here said that she was talking to a friend of hers about right now, having homeless men that live with me. So they're not homeless anymore. One I've had for a year and a half. And I said, do you think it's weird? And she said, no. She said, do you remember years ago we had foreign exchange students, and I met a lady when I was living in Chicago. I met a girl from Sweden standing in line at the post office, and it was right at Christmas time. And I started talking to her, and she was an exchange student. And I said, oh my gosh, I want an exchange student. And she said, a friend of mine is looking for a place to stay, and he's from Korea. So he moved in without ever having met him. He moved in for the school year.
That's awesome.
Into my home. And I had another girl from Korea. And even living here, I met a couple from Amsterdam, and they were musicians, and they were here for 2 days. And I said, well, don't stay in a hotel, stay in my house. And they ended up staying here for 6 days. And when the woman went back and she had her first jazz album come out, she named it Sugar Plum Road. And that was after the road that she stayed on, where my house was. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So, you know what, they're kind of used to it that,
Yeah.
like, my oldest daughter said, her friends will say to her, so who's staying at your mom's house now? Who's living?
Yeah.
This was kind of the norm.
Now, do you ever have any, reservation, or did you ever have any reservation at first? Like, I don't know, letting somebody I've never met before come stay at my house. Has that ever been a...
No. And you know what? I think that there again, you're talking about God's grace and the gift of discernment, because it's almost like He puts it in my heart, so I don't even think about it when all of a sudden it's like, I want this person to stay in my house. And even with the homeless, I've never planned on having them live with me ever.
Right.
And I've known one for 5 years. He's awesome, and I called him Gentle John, and he's got the heart of Jesus, and he needed a place to stay for, or he called me up on a Wednesday and said that his tent and his sleeping bag got wet, and could he come and stay at my house? And when I traveled, he'd come and stay there with my dog.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how much I trusted him. And so then that was a year and a half ago, and his tent is dry, his sleeping bag is dry, and he has his own room, and he's made my life so much easier. It's like having Jesus living in the house.
That's awesome.
And so when people come to the house, guys come, and I'll invite them to stay, it's not anything I ever had planned.
Right.
At all. It's like God just kind of says, they need to feel Him, I guess.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
So no, I've always, there are some people that will ask for a ride someplace, and God will even put that in my heart not to let them even in my car. So He's really given me that radar, His radar.
Well, that kind of gets me into the next, really the next thing I wanted to ask, which is, I know a lot of people have a lot of, there's a lot of judgment towards homeless people, because some of them were people who've done crimes or even spent time in jail or prison. So you find it pretty easy to kind of judge, who to let in, who to keep out.
And you know what? Even if they don't stay with me, God has just really allowed me this acceptance of people. Like on Wednesday of this week, there was a guy that came where I was serving, and somebody brought him up to me and said this is his first time here, and I asked him what he owned, and he said what I have on. And so I have, my whole garage is filled with clothes and pretty much anything people need, and in back is furniture that's covered up, and it goes out as quick as it comes in usually. But by the next morning at 6:30, I was able to bring to him at the shelter almost everything he needed. But the beauty of this, I put it on Facebook, and I put his picture, and people all over the country are asking how they can help and what size shoes he needs. And 2 people even asked for his resume so that they can clean up his resume and make it very appealing. Everything in me tells me he's a really hard worker. He made one mistake. And it's real easy for me to look past some mistake and just be able to love them when the world may say they're unlovable. But so no, I guess given I have a great sense of humor too, and so a lot of times, like this one on Wednesday said to me, you know, he just got out, or he said, it's his first time at this shelter, and so my first question was, did you just get out of jail? And he said, yes. And I said, okay, when? And he said, today. And it's just kind of a natural thing. It's not judgment. It's like, okay, now I know what we're dealing with, and we can work from there, and there's no judgment. And so when I saw him the next morning, he said, I wish we would have met under better circumstances. I said, but no, if we would have, then God wouldn't get the glory.
Yeah.
Then we'd take the glory, we'd pat ourselves on the back. So you know what? I would say that's not anything I've consciously done. I think that was a gift that was given to me, and I think it can be developed, though, where you start looking in their eyes and see them as people.
Right, right.
Rather than as labeling them as homeless.
Right. Or even whatever mistake that they've done to put them in prison.
Yes,
right.
Yes.
Whether it be thief or drug addict or drug dealer,
right.
Or you name it. You know?
Well, and it's funny about the drugs, because a lot of people say, is there a lot of mental illness? Are there a lot of drug addicts? Are there a lot of alcoholics? Sometimes that's as a result. And I think, what would it be like to be on the streets every morning and every night? Why not? You know,
yeah.
and I don't have those addictions, but it's like, what would stop you from doing that to get through each day and each night? So it's tough.
Are there a lot of myths about the homeless people? Because I know that a lot of people, and I hear a lot of opinions from people who've never been homeless. Most of them have never been in want, really, because most of them have come from either middle class or above backgrounds, and so there's a lot of misconceptions, possibly, or what are the myths actually, that, you know, whether it's...
Well, it's that they don't, a lot of them is that they don't want to work, that they're lazy, that they want everything for free. And when you finally get to sit down with them and get to know their story, which they want you to ask, I've asked them, what would you want people to know? And they said, tell them to look at us and look us in the eye and ask us our stories. But we think that they've never wanted to work. And like one guy, he worked at Nashville, he worked downtown in this big glass building. He was an attorney, very successful by the world standards, and he came home one day after being married 32 years. His wife, who was his high school sweetheart, had cleaned out everything and left him for someone else.
Oh boy.
Okay, so now all his bills came in, everything like that, but he couldn't function. He was paralyzed. So I think with a lot of them, something happens in their life. One guy saw his daughter's boyfriend take her head and bang it against a car and kill her. Mm. And he ended up being in prison for 17 years after that. But, you know what, we don't know what's happened. And I often think, what would I do if I saw my daughter being killed, you know? And so a lot of them, it's like one choice in life put them on the streets. One other guy got a DUI, and then he was driving without a license, got stopped. He had his own business, had 18 employees, had a house, and they put him in jail for 81 days. And he lost his house, his business, everything. And so now he started Tent City in Nashville because of that. And he's on the commission and all that. But it's one choice where it was just, I can drive because I have to go to work. I'm going to drive my car. And that's things that you don't even think about. You're thinking anybody could do that.
Yeah. And so I guess another myth would be, too, this assumption that if you see somebody on the street that they're mentally ill, but most of the time that's really not the case, is it?
No. You know what? It really isn't. There are some of them that are, because what was it, about 8-9 years ago when they emptied out most of the mental hospitals, and they put them on the streets. Yeah. I don't remember what president it was, but they put them on the streets. So there are those people out there, and there aren't places to put them. Right. So we do have those out there, and we don't have the resources for them. So we do have those. But you know what? I would say for people, not everybody wants to be on the front line. I have a spiritual mentor, and he said, I will mentor you and I will help you, but I will never go on the front line, and I will never go under the bridge like you do. He said, when I see a homeless person on the street, I lock the door. That's his thing, and those are his fears. Yeah. But that's not his role. But the only thing that I've always asked people is when you go past them, look at them and smile, because what the homeless say is that they see people going by and picking up their cell phones and pretending they're talking on it when they said, we saw it didn't ring and they didn't dial. Yeah. And so they said, so they're ashamed of us, which makes us ashamed of being there and in the position we are. And they've often said they turn their head like they don't see us, and so almost like we're not there. And so their thing is just look at us and smile, wave, do anything like that, and acknowledge that we're people.
Yeah. Something you mentioned about also, you know, they don't want to not work. I know talking with you, just listening to your stories about different people who you work with who have jobs.
Right.
And are doing what they can to, get back up on their feet. And
well, the thing is with Tennessee too, Tennessee is not a felony-friendly state. There are actually states that are.
Okay.
And so a lot of the states around here are. So if they have a felony, there's one guy that had theft on his record when he was 18 and he's 49. And when it goes into the system with a lot of the businesses, it'll shoot it out right away. And he was 18 and he's 49 now.
Yeah.
And so we don't. It's like they don't even get a chance. So the forgiveness part in this state is really kind of bad.
Gotcha. Now, do you find yourself, I guess, as a life coach, you do find yourself often coaching these individuals you work with in the homeless shelter?
Oh my gosh, community? All the time. I'm always shooting questions at them and trying to get them to grab their own lives. And I think what I've learned, though, is that a lot of times we judge them and we say, why aren't they working 40 hours a week? Why don't they do that? We have to be aware that a lot of them mentally, physically are not capable of it. And so I think that if we could meet them where they're at, and if somebody could work 10 hours a day and that's their, or 10 hours a week, and that's their capacity, we have to look at them as a success.
Right.
But we think that we're all or nothing. If they can't work 40 hours and give their all, then they're not doing their best, when actually they may be working 2 more hours than their body even says they can.
Right.
So there's so many of them that are crying out going, I want to work so bad. And they go to the labor ready place every day. Some days they get work, some days they don't. And if they get a job and they're homeless, they don't have a place that they can wash their clothes at night if they stay downtown at the Mission. So they're there 5 days without being able to wash their clothes. It's really a tough situation. It's like we're not really helping them. We're just kind of judging as to why they can't work, and we're feeding the fact that we're not going to help them.
Right, and basically with things we've talked about with my ministry too, is that people have a tendency to do jumping to conclusions.
Oh.
And, we can be very bad about coming to assumptions about others or things, and coming to that conclusion before we've actually gathered all the facts.
I have homeless that come to my house when I bought my washer and dryer, and it's out in the garage so that they can come and they can wash their clothes.
Yeah.
They have that available to them so that they don't have to wonder if they can wash their clothes. And there are times I've gone places to get the bags of dirty clothes to bring them the next morning so that they have their clean clothes. As a matter of fact, there was a guy that got a job. I drove him for a long time from Nashville to Smyrna.
Yeah.
I took him for his interview. I got him the application, and a friend of mine and I knew the guy that ran the kitchen there, and he's been there over a year now.
Awesome.
And there are some days he takes a bus there and then walks the 6 miles from the bus to Nissan.
Yeah.
And does that in the morning. But he's been there a year. So
That's
you know
cool.
what was stopping him was the transportation. And I said, you know what, if you get the job, we are going to get you transportation. And so I would bring him at night, at 9 o'clock at night, and pick him up at 6 in the morning, knowing that that was the difference between keeping him out of prison for not paying child support and not. And now a year later, he's one of the head people in the kitchen at Nissan.
Excellent.
Yeah, it's awesome. They
That's
need
fantastic.
a chance, and they just need a chance to know that one person believes in them when they can't even believe in themselves.
Okay. Now, what do you find is your biggest challenge doing this work?
Probably the financial part, because I'm a life coach and I do that on the phone or on Skype. And I would say, first of all, it's getting the finances, because people love watching what you're doing, but they don't, and they clap their hands. And that's about it. And getting a lot of people to help. A lot of people will say, I'll help. I'd love to help. What can I do? And that's where it ends.
Yeah.
So a lot of times I'm the one that's sitting there with a garage full of stuff that I can hardly move in, going, I have to get this organized. My people that live with me help me. But there again, I need so much more help than I have.
Yeah, like volunteers.
I do.
Yeah. Now, you said something about your garage. That makes me want to bring up something, because it's come to my attention that you basically, your garage is a warehouse.
Yes. Not only my garage, it's moved into my house. If people say, do you want, I always just say, yes, I'll take it. As a matter of fact, about 3 weeks ago, somebody said, do you want a walker? And last Friday, I brought it to someone that had trouble moving, and I said, do you want a walker? And she said, yeah. She said, and I said, I have one. She said, does it have wheels? I said, it does, and a seat. I've taken size 17 shoes, and 6 days later found someone that needed size 17 shoes. He usually wears 16 because he can't get them, so he squeezes his feet into 16. and 6 days later I had 17.
17.
So my garage, with everything that people ask me if I want, I say yes. So behind my house is my driveway. I will put tarps over. Right now I have a table and chairs, and I have lawnmower, and I have a couch, and I tell my neighbors it's my Lamborghini and my Porsche. And when they disappear, my cars get sold, I tell them. And my neighbors are real good about it. But yes, everything is real organized, but it's definitely a warehouse. And if people give me like the floor lamps, I put them all over my house. To get out of the garage, and then when people need lamps in their house, I go grab them, and then when I get down to nothing but my own floor lamps, I take my floor lamps knowing they'll be replaced. So I never know what my house is going to look like.
Now, I want you to tell a story. You told me this, maybe it was last week or just the other day, but because it fascinates me how, whenever there's something in need, it seems to come. You were telling me about a woman who had moved or lost everything, and I can't remember the details of the story, but she needed, she asked for
CD player.
Yeah, and a clothes hamper, right?
Oh, well, she asked for a laundry basket. She needed somebody's putting together stuff for this lady that lost everything. She has 2 daughters, and so this lady called me and said, "Do you have stuff?" And I said yes. So I gave her her towels and her sheets, and she said what she really needs too is a laundry basket. And I said I don't have any of those. She said, and she has an 11 and 14-year-old daughter. So she said, "Do you have like a portable CD player?" And I said, "I don't." And so that was on Friday. And then on Saturday, I got asked by someone if I had a DVD player, because he lives in a discipleship house. And they watch movies on his computer. And I said, I don't have a DVD player. On Sunday, I went under the bridge, and someone said, I have something for you. And she gave me a laundry basket with 2 CD players and a DVD player in it, without knowing, because I hadn't told anyone. And I just looked at it going, you've got to be kidding. In 2 days, I got them their CD players, and she asked for 1 CD player, and I said, I got 2 of them. And she said, now each girl will get 1.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I love hearing that, because, a lot of people, would look at that and say, oh, that's just coincidence. But it just, the time I've spent with you so far, I mean, that's a all the time thing.
You know what? It is all the time. As a matter of fact, people will say to me when somebody comes up and I'm under the bridge, will say, "Do you have?" And the people that serve there go, "Oh, listen to what's going to happen in her magic trunk now," because it just so happens that it's like, "Oh my gosh, I have a size 5X shirt for you." It's amazing how I just went and picked up stuff, and I'll say, "Let's dig through it." And it's what they need all the time.
So you're kind of like a real life Mary Poppins.
Oh my, that's okay. That's exactly what it seems like. And my car is always filled with like tomorrow night I'll go to a shelter and I'll bring probably long sleeve shirts, jackets, pants, and socks and underwear. Somebody gave me bags of underwear yesterday, and I got 8 grocery bags full of underwear.
Cool.
Yeah, it's really, really cool. So I'll bring those because people ask for those. Somebody gave me $6,000 worth of reading glasses.
Oh,
so
really?
I carry those in my car all the time, some of them, so when they need reading glasses, which that's a huge thing.
Yeah. I want to say something on that for a second, because, I mean, that's an item that somebody, I mean, underwear people might think of, somebody might need underwear, but reading glasses you might not think of. But one of the things, stories I love is Andy Andrews, who is an author and a speaker, and he was homeless for a time in his life, and he talked about a homeless man who mentored him, who got him into reading biographies from the library. And so, often you don't think about homeless people going to libraries and reading books, but
they're in the libraries all the time, especially when it's cold. Our library in Nashville is really good about letting them get on the computers and that. But the reading glasses, a lot of them can't read at all. So stuff like that you don't think of is so huge for them. Yeah. I mean, one guy asked me for alcohol. Not drinking alcohol, rubbing alcohol. And he said we wear our shoes so much that the rubbing alcohol takes the smell off their feet.
Okay.
But, I mean, even socks, with socks, which seems so trivial, so many times they don't have any because they wear them for so long that they smell, they throw them away. They can't even wash them.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it's amazing watching how excited they get when you give them a pair of a new pair of socks. And then if you let them have 2 pair there. One lady had asked me, I saw her downtown, I was delivering some food, and she said, "Do you have clothes?" And I said, "No, I don't." And this was before I started collecting clothes. And then the next week I saw her, she grabbed my arm and she said, "Do you have clothes?" And I said, "No." And I kind of pushed her away, and then I thought, oh my gosh, what am I doing? So I said, "Wait here." And I said, "What do you need?" She said, I need underwear. She said, I have one pair. And I said, what else? And she told me she needed pants and a sweatshirt. I was going out to speak 2 days later, so I met her the next day downtown, not knowing if she'd be there, and she was there. So I had bought these Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday panties for her. So I give her the pack of it, and she said, oh my gosh, what day should I pick out? She thought she got one pair. I said, you get them all. And she said, all 7 pair? And that's when you realize how little they're used to.
Yeah.
Oh, man, just watching her face light up when, almost like she didn't know what she was going to do with 7 pair, you know, a year's supply. And I thought the things we take for granted.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. Now tell me about John. You mentioned John already. Now, he got to be in a music video recently.
He did. He did. There's a Christian group called Anthem Lights, and they did a song called Just Fall.
Okay.
And the song is about, basically it's about how one person in someone's life can make a difference, can change a life around. The director is a friend of mine, and he called me and said, Sandy, you know a lot of people. I want like 3 or 4 people who had someone in their life that helped them, that changed their life. And I said, okay, let me think about it. And then he said, wait, you have John living with you. Let me talk to John. He had met him. So he talked to John, and then he talked to me again and said, he called the next day and said, we're doing only John's story for the whole video. So what they did is they did the video at my house at the cemetery where he used to sleep on top of one of the some concrete things, whatever they call them. And then they did it under the bridge because we talked about the bridge. And they talked to him about, he had probably 4 years ago had pneumonia. And I was under the bridge, and somebody came up to me and said, Sandy, John's looking for you. He wants us to find you. He's laying in Riverfront Park, and he's really sick. So I went right over there, and he could hardly move. And he's just a slight, 120-some-pound guy, real wiry, real muscular. But he could hardly move. Took him to the hospital, and he had pneumonia. And so what he did is when he talked in that video, too, which surprised me, he talked about how that he would have died.
Yeah.
I mean, his temp was so bad, and he knew when he was in the cemetery that he had to find me somehow, and if he stayed there, he was going to die in that cemetery. So he lives with me and takes care of my dog. Takes him for walks. He works when he can. He works for his niece.
Okay.
A lot of work. He works a lot. And she lives in Hermitage and has a lot of work for him, and he works there. He rides his bike to the bus, and they can put the bike on the front of the bus.
Okay.
And then he goes to Hermitage, rides his bike to her house, comes back at night and does that. The days that we have to do delivering of furniture because someone needs furniture, he will tell her he can't work then because his service is first to me, which is amazing. I mean, I had, a couple weeks ago, I had a headboard and a footboard to give away. Somebody had driven from Alabama and brought me a king-size headboard and footboard and the frame, and they brought not the mattress, but the box springs, 2 box springs. Well, it's like, you know what are you going to do with the box springs without the mattress? Well, they're singles. I had 2 single mattresses without box springs.
Yeah.
Those are the only beds I had at that time. So I had the frame and I had the headboard and footboard left over, so I put it on Craigslist. Somebody came and got it right away, but a girl wrote on there saying, I'd like it. I was giving it away free. I would like it. I was homeless and I'm getting a place. I said, give me a call. So this girl lived in Columbia, and she's 23 years old, had a 18-month-old and a 4-year-old. And we were able to give her all her furniture. We made trips out there. Last Saturday, she came to the house with her girls, and she picked up her Christmas tree and all the clothes for her girls. And my wonderful daughter that lives here, Lauren, I got to give her a shout out. Her friends took over their Christmas, and so she's meeting her tomorrow in Franklin, and all of her girlfriends are doing the Christmas for her and her daughter.
That is awesome.
So awesome how everybody's saying, how can I help and how can I be a part of this?
Yeah,
so
that's fantastic.
Yeah, and so my Lauren's meeting that other Lauren.
Okay.
And doing their Christmas.
That's awesome.
It's just, and that was from Craigslist.
Just from Craigslist.
Giving away something free, and her saying, I used to be homeless. So you look at people that are afraid, that have so much pride, they're afraid to be honest.
Right.
So if she would have just said, do you still have it? I would have said no. But she was honest, saying, can I have it? I was homeless. And I thought, you know, when we're honest, all of a sudden people come up going, let me help.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and we just discussed recently, just the two of us, about people asking for help, how a lot of people have too much pride, won't do it, but asking for help is taking away from somebody else their opportunity. Well, as we say, when we feel most fulfilled is when we help other people. So it's taking away from somebody else that chance.
Okay, I put that Lauren story on Facebook and told about this, and the people that came forward. One guy in Florida actually sent me a $200 check to help buy things for her.
That's
somebody
great.
I've never met. Said my heart went out to her. Can I do that? You know, so it's amazing how all of a sudden people are going, I want to help, and they see this girl, and she sent me a picture with her and her 2 kids even before I had met her, and I put that on Facebook, and the people that have come forward, and she has everything she needs in her house.
That's fantastic. Now, how much of the day do you spend helping homeless people?
Well, it depends. Being a life coach, there are some days I can be coaching 4 or 5 hours.
Okay.
You know, but then helping the homeless could be late at night. It could be in the morning. I mean, I'm so alive when I'm doing it. The time goes so fast. So I would say it's real hard to say. Some days it can be 10 hours a day.
Okay.
I mean, literally 10 hours a day where people are in need. Like I got a text this morning from someone asking if I can come over and see his house because he got his place 3 weeks ago. He just texted me at the beginning of this week saying, I can't believe 2 weeks ago I had a duffel bag and a backpack. He got an apartment and it's completely filled with a Christmas tree too.
That's great.
We got him his Christmas tree. We got him everything he needs.
Now, let me ask you about that real quick too, because I know a lot of times maybe people look at what they think a homeless person should have, you know, and like maybe bare basics. Do you think that people neglect something like a Christmas tree, which may not be a basic necessity, but you know, how does that affect somebody like that?
Okay, now you're talking my language. Okay, there was one guy that got a small apartment. He had gone through drug rehab 4 times. His name is David, and he had gone through drug rehab, and he got a small place. We got him what he needed, and then we put the pictures on the wall, and we put candle holders up. And he said, "This time I'm going to make it. Will you walk with me?" Because of the pictures on the wall. And then we got Larry, who was in the service for 18 years, and he's been homeless for 23 years. He got a place out in Madison. We got him everything he needed. He wanted a queen-size bed, and I said, oh, I don't know. The next day, I got a nice queen-size bed. We went to Franklin and picked it up. And so we brought all his stuff out there. Somebody from Alabama brought up a table and chairs for him.
Yeah.
And they just happened to bring it up the day he needed it. And then when we put the pictures on the wall, and I went to stopping to see him once, and he calls me his best friend, and he said, I feel so different, I don't know how to act. I said, why? He said, the picture's on the wall. And I said, what about the pictures on the wall? I said, when was the last time you were in a place with pictures on the wall? He said, never. I've never been in a place. And he walked up to a picture in the kitchen and put his hands on it, just stood there, almost like he couldn't believe that he had his own pictures on the wall. So people think that they should have just the bare minimum, and I go into those places saying, what can we do to give them the extra, to tell them that in God's eyes they deserve it all. I mean, people give me placemats, so they have placemats. They get silk flowers. They get all of these things that will make their house pretty. A lot of the guys will say to me, will you help me decorate because I don't know how? And it's like, oh my gosh, yes. Now last week I brought some stuff to Vine Hill Towers, which is Section 8 housing, and we got it's really nice there for them. And we filled up this guy's place, real simple. He wanted it real simple and real nice. And then he told me that there was a lady that has that sleeps on the floor. So I had a box spring and mattress. So I brought her box spring and mattress. It bothered me I didn't have a frame. And so a couple weeks later I got a frame, and I told him to ask her if she got a frame, and she didn't. And this was just last week. I brought her frame. Well, as it turns out, she has bad knees, so she's been sleeping without sheets because to put them on is too hard to bend over. And the thought that she's been sleeping on the ground and then has to still bend down on a box spring and mattress bothered me. And so here another lady brought me 9 comforter sets because they downsized. And I brought this lady a comforter with pillows, with throw pillows. And then she had a mattress pad, and I made the bed for her, and she sat on the bed, and the picture's on my Facebook page, and she cried. saying, I can't believe that this pretty bed is mine. And when you walk in, you can see her bedroom, and you can see her bed with the pillows there.
Yeah.
There. And she just stood there when I was leaving going, look at that. Look at it. And she sat down saying, I have bad knees. I need surgery, but I can't afford it. She said, I don't have to bend down. And I thought, just think how nice it is for her to be able to do what we take for granted. You know, crawl into a bed with a mattress pad on.
That's
awesome. You know? Oh, it's so awesome. And so there are days when I go, really, Lord, you have all this for me to do. I have to do this. I'm tired. And then there are other days when and all I hear from him then is yes. And then other days when I get to go and I see her sitting on that mattress or on the bed, or I see him touching the picture, and I go, really, Lord, I get to do this? I wish everybody could be here right now and see this, you know?
Yeah. And so it's the extra mile that, you know, and bringing back I don't know if I want to use the right word, but, you know, from the basics to just the human things is just tremendous. It reminds me of, and I can't remember where I read this, which book it was, but it was about when after VE Day in Europe, and they got into all those concentration camps, and the people were basically skin and bones, and you know, even though they were feeding them and bringing back food, people were still dying. And one of the things that made the difference, and one of the people there decided, you know, we got lipstick, and the women got to put on lipstick again, and that made all the difference right there. Is that, and it made them feel human again, you know, more than just what the bare basics can do.
I've been able to do that with women. Is people give me like jewelry, or they will give me perfume or makeup, and when they lose everything, and then they'll say to me, I need, you know, pants, I need this stuff, they'll tell me, and I'll say jewelry and makeup, and they'll look at me like, for real? You're going to give me that, you know? I mean, even when the guys go to the shelter, sometimes they take a shower and it's just with water. So I met someone at a wedding in February in Chicago, Kathy Callis, and what she does is she's a flight attendant. She gets all the flight attendants, the pilots, and everything to save all their toiletries when they travel. And she sends me big boxes from Chicago all the time. And not only that, she has it all sorted in Ziploc bags, you know, of shampoo and stuff. So when I walk into those shelters, I get to take the soap and the little packet of shaving cream and the razors, just all that stuff, and hand that to them. And they walk out and they smell like, you take for granted that people smell like soap and that they smell clean, you know, and yet they come out and it's hard to comb their hair when they have the longer hair, the whole bit, because they don't have the conditioner. And you're like, conditioner, the little things of conditioner, that they get so excited.
Yeah. Now, how do people find out about you? I mean, how do homeless people or poor people or people who are in need, how do they get in touch with you?
I would say that's word of mouth. I had someone call me up and say, even though there's 6,000 people in Nashville, you say the name Sandy, everybody knows who you are. I would say it's word of mouth. I hand my cards out to everybody, absolutely everybody. My prayer is that everybody has my card in their wallet, so when they need help and they're at their lowest, that they can call me anytime. And they do. And sometimes it's for no other reason than they need to talk. Sometimes you have to get past the reason that the phone rang and find the real reason. You know, I had one guy, I saw him one night, and he said to me, Sandy, and I talked to so many I didn't really remember seeing him, and he said he was going to kill himself that night. Okay. And he decided he was going to walk the 2 miles to where he thought I would be at the shelter. Yeah. And if I wasn't there, he had it all planned out. I was there. So he asked me if he could talk to me, young guy. We sat and talked, and I ended up calling the suicide prevention. We ended up going to Vanderbilt, and I sat with him all night in Vanderbilt. They ended up putting him in a place where he got help, and I see him around all the time now. He's working, and I see him around. But it's funny because you just, where do they find you? They find you where God wants you to be, you know, and all that. So they all have my phone number.
Okay.
You know, they all have my phone number. They pass it on. And so it's not even just the homeless, it's the poor, needy, homeless, and orphaned.
Okay.
And my definition of orphan is anybody that's paralyzed by a life event and finds that they can't move forward.
So we're not just talking about like a child necessarily.
Oh, no. You know what? No, not at all.
Yeah,
not at all. You know, like a lady lived in a place for 6 years, and she called me, and she needed clothes for her grandchildren. And as it turned out, they lived close to me, and I brought that. And then... so I brought those to her, and I saw she didn't have much furniture. And Then I find out she has no dishes, pots and pans. I went home and was able to get all of that stuff. And she didn't have any lamps in her living room. I was able to come over and bring 2 that day. I was able to bring all that stuff. So it's anybody in need, anybody whose spirit is crying out saying, does anybody care?
Yeah.
So you know what? People in homes are homeless.
Right.
In their hearts a lot of times begging for family, for someone to care.
Right. And it's not just limited to the Christmas season either. Because I know a lot of people will, the Christmas time, they go out and do whatever it is they do, but we forget that these people are poor or homeless or in need 365 days a lot of times.
Well, and with the homeless, one of their, I would say, pet peeves is Thanksgiving is the worst because everybody comes out of the woodwork making turkey and wanting to make them dinners that day.
Yeah.
And they said, we have so much turkey that we can't move. And they said, where are they the week before and where are they the week after? And then there's some people that do it in certain places like the Rescue Mission, and they do it every year. And they're famous people, and the homeless say, it's a free photo op for them. It's free publicity. Why aren't they there a month before when nothing's going on, serving, when nobody knows it? And so they're on to how people are doing it and how they feel guilty that they have so much. So on Thanksgiving they go there. But what about the middle of March when it's gray and they're going, does anybody care? And the response they're getting is, it's not Thanksgiving. Just wait till November.
Yeah.
And at Christmas we'll come forward and we'll buy you something then and we'll feel good about it and we'll pat ourselves on the back. But January 1st, it's all about us again.
Yeah.
So they feel that.
Right. It's easy to forget about those other hard times of the year when maybe there's not a holiday or special holiday. Now tell us about Super Bowl games at your house and doing things like sounds games and concert tickets and things like that. So it's more than just basic needs. I mean, like we've already covered that, but I mean it's even more than
Oh my gosh. I have a friend whose husband works for the Predators, and when they have empty seats, she'll call me and say, tomorrow night, do you want 5 tickets for the Predators? And we get to sit up in front. So I've got to go to a lot of those games. And I bring I take my camera, of course, and take pictures of them, and I bring an empty card, and I have them all write in it, and then I paste it on the front, and we send it to her. So they're always thanking her for it. And I've gotten tickets this year for Joan Jett and Journey.
And those already happened?
And
Okay.
Yeah, and the Sounds game, Fish radio station gives me for the Sounds game, and then I put on Facebook asking if people want to pay for snacks for my people that are going to the Sounds game, and that's a baseball team. And I've had somebody this year in Denmark write to me and say, what's your PayPal address? And I told them, we're not even connected on Facebook. She saw it on someone else's page and sent me $100 to pay for food from Denmark. So we've been able to go to like Casting Crowns a number of times. We get to go to a lot of those concerts. WayFM gave me tickets for that. And a lot of times I'm sitting on the computer when I see something is there. They were having a men's retreat at Bridgestone, and my guys that live with me wanted to go. And I wrote to Outreach, World Outreach, and I said, do you give scholarships? They said, we gave them all out. The day before, they called me up and said, somebody returned the tickets right in front. Do you want them? And I went, yeah. So the guys got to go.
Awesome.
So every time I see something, I write to them saying, would you be willing to donate so that the homeless can go? And so they get to go to a lot of that stuff. I pick out who's going to go. Now, another thing we do is we do pennies from heaven, where I've had them save the change. When in the Bible, when the perfume was poured on Jesus, and he said, no, they said, don't do that. It's a year's worth of wages.
Yeah.
He said, don't stop her. She's doing what she can with what she can. And that's come to my attention that that's what we need to do with the homeless. So I started having them pick up change off the ground when they see it, and I have a check.
The homeless people, or
the homeless?
Okay.
And so so far we've given over $1,700 to St. Jude out of the change.
So they're participating in giving.
They're giving me bags. I saw a guy last night that said, I have a bag for you of change, and I have a bag of, I saved the pop tabs for Ronald McDonald House. And so I have a check for $330 from the change that they've been given, and to bring to Vanderbilt. Now we have a relationship with Vanderbilt Children's Hospital. Vanderbilt is the biggest indigent provider of health care. And so I had to go through hoops. So I will bring 2 homeless guys, and I have 6 containers from Vanderbilt of change that I have to bring in yet. And the first week in January, I would bring 2 of the homeless guys with me, and they will come in and hand it to Vanderbilt. 2 homeless guys will actually give it to them. And I have them pick up the pop tabs, and that goes to the Ronald McDonald House. And last year, there were, Middle Tennessee gave $20,000 worth of pop tabs. They save the pop tabs and turn it in. It's a pierced form of aluminum in the tab. Yeah. And they don't take up as much room as pop cans.
Gotcha.
So the guy saved the tabs for me. And so I was serving one night, and a lady that serves came up and said, "Do you have any of the pop tabs?" I said, "I do." And she said, "Okay." She said, "My nephew in Chattanooga, he and his wife had twins, and one of them died. And the other one, they don't know if it's going to make it. And they are staying at the Ronald McDonald House, and they were told to save the pop tabs." And so I said, "I'll bring them for you." So a couple days later, I saw her, and I brought her 6 coffee cans and a big pickle jar full. And she said, "Well, I don't need them all." And I said, "I don't care where they go." Yeah. Well, what happened is she brought it to Chattanooga, gave it to her nephew and his wife. They started crying, going, "You're kidding." They gave it to the Ronald McDonald House, and the Ronald McDonald House said, "Paid in full."
Oh, cool.
So who paid for the stay there? The homeless paid for the stay.
Yeah.
So you're going, they don't do anything. They're picking up pop tabs and change, and they're letting people stay in the Ronald McDonald House, and they're helping kids.
So it's a myth that homeless people are just out with a handout saying, "Give to me," but they also do their share to give to others. And that's amazing, because I know a lot of people who are probably watching this, have had their own preconceived notions or ideas of what, I'm just glad you're here to dispel a lot of the misunderstandings that there are about homeless people and poor people. And
well, you know what? Even Smile Train, I found out about Smile Train, which does surgery for kids with cleft palate. And it's only $250 for a whole surgery, because the doctors give all their time. So I told the homeless about it, and I don't know anything about it, but I did the research. And every time I saw them, I had a picture and a story about someone that had cleft palate. And within 7 times of seeing them, they all went to work and stuff, and they paid the $250 and paid completely for someone's surgery with cleft palate.
That's excellent.
Those are the homeless. Now, how many of us go and give that money and figure out how we can help someone with cleft palate?
I'd say most people don't. They'd say, "Man, I wish I had, or I was in a better position financially, I could donate that," or,
Well, and then I had them doing crafts, and we were doing crafts for kids with cancer from St. Jude, and we were sending it there. And then a friend of mine in Minnesota, where I'm from, her grandson was 5 years old and had cancer. So we were able to start making things, and they call him Little Captain Jack Sparrow. He loves Captain Jack Sparrow. So we were able to send things to him, and they replied and sent letters back. Well, he got cancer again, and so the guys and when I went to Minnesota, I was able to give the stuff to her and take pictures of her getting the pirate stuff and the stuff they made, and watching them work on it so diligently. They didn't want to stop making these crafts for him. And then the day that I got the message, I had to tell them on a Wednesday night that Captain Jack Sparrow died. And I looked for one guy that was so diligent about what he made for him, because letters went back and forth. And I saw him on his cot crying, just dripping, just crying. And he's going, "Why'd that happen? I thought he was getting better. I thought it was helping him what we were doing." And all of a sudden, you had a chance to sit there and talk about the gospel, about God and His, His love and all this stuff. But you're looking, and so I had brought 2 pieces of paper and filled out, put pictures of Captain Jack Sparrow and pirate stuff, and said, if you want to write a note to one was the grandma and the other one were the parents, because I know the grandma. The whole thing was completely filled on the front and back, and we sent that to them. And reading that when I went home were things like, "You'll never know what your son meant to us. You think that he's your child, but he became like part of our family," and all this stuff where they started owning this little boy with cancer. And they'll still ask me if I'm in touch with Little Captain Jack Sparrow's grandma.
Yeah.
And you look at things like that going, we forget to look at their hearts.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I have a 2-part question. Where do you get your resources? And what is your biggest need right now?
I'll tell you what, the biggest need is my resources I get from all over. People give me things. People donate to help pay for things. As a matter of fact, I had some gas cards left in my door, which is really nice, because I spend a lot on gas going all over and delivering. And the biggest need right now, I would say, is I need help. Or at Christmas time now, a lot of the homeless, what I'm collecting are gift cards. For Walmart, for Target, to take them there. We're actually taking them there. there so they can get what they need. Another thing is McDonald's gift cards, Subway gift cards. One guy, we gave him a $5 gift card for McDonald's, and he got five $1 things. He was so excited. He said it felt like it was a feast. Yeah, he went off the dollar menu, and he was so excited about that $5 gift card. And so the need are always donations to help cover the costs for basically gas money we need. I go to the thrift stores, and they see me there so much that they let me buy their cards for 50% off because they see me so much. So they're real good with that.
Well, let's remind our audience, with those needs in mind, how if they want to donate any of those things to you or whatever they have, it may not be that, but if they have something else that they think you might need, or may want to call and say, do you have anything else you need?
Yes.
How can they get in touch with you?
They can call me, again, Sandy Griffin, at 615-339-3100. Or if they want to send it, they can send it to Sharing Hearts, 5013 Edmondson Pike, Nashville, 37211. And I also have PayPal. If you want to go on PayPal, and it's sjgriff, GRIF 2002 at yahoo.com, and you can send a donation to PayPal, and that will go to help the homeless, the poor, needy, homeless, or orphaned, whoever needs something. So when they ask, I can say, yes, I can get that for you.
Now, one more question before we wrap up our interview, and that is dealing with the gospel. Now, you don't just share with people basic needs or even like the other extra needs, like a picture on the wall, but you also are a ministry,
right? And
you have chances to share with people the gospel. Is that correct?
It is correct. As a matter of fact, I was able a couple of years ago to marry two of the homeless people. I got to they weren't homeless at that point, but I got to counsel them and work with their spiritual growth, and then I got to do their wedding.
So that's fantastic. You do more than just the.
Well, as a matter of fact, there's one guy that called me a couple of years ago on Christmas Eve, and I was in Minnesota, and he said, "Merry Christmas." I said, "Thank you." And he said, "Does this have something to do with Jesus?" And I started talking to him about that. He believed in God, and watching his change has been so incredible on how he's gotten so close to God and loves Jesus. And they'll ask me when I'm out there, what church are you with? And when I say to them, I'm not with the church, I'm just doing his work. And then they start questioning that, because a lot of times when people go as a church, they look at it as something you can cross off your list, or you're getting pictures for your website.
Yeah.
But when you're there and you're doing God's work and you're letting them know, and I'm just doing what God called me to do, they question that further. Like, for real? You're coming to the homeless just because, and you're not getting the credit in a church, or
yeah.
So there's so many opportunities to spread the gospel and to tell them how Jesus understands what they're going through and how much he still loves them. And a lot of them have come to realize that they love Jesus, that their ministry might be on the streets.
Yeah.
When I've talked to them, saying, who better for them to listen to? Are they going to listen to us with houses or to you?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, it's like a light bulb goes off with a lot of them going, oh my gosh, I never thought of that. I said, you're on the streets, you still love Jesus. People are going to go, wait a minute, there might be something to this.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden, you watch them kind of up in their game, going, okay, So I tell them, you have to be more vocal, because this is you've got a mission field out there.
That's right. And even though they may be, without or whatever, it doesn't mean that they can't spread the message themselves.
Well, you look at Paul in prison.
Yeah.
He was behind bars, like a lot of the guys are.
Yeah.
And that's where he did his work, So it's like I always tell them that Nelson Mandela, you look at all these people like that said, okay, this is where I was planted to spread the gospel.
Yeah.
This is where they need it.
Yeah.
Obviously it's every place they need it, but there.
Right.
People come in once a day to do it, or the people behind there that are going, okay, I still love Jesus.
We have a tendency to look at our own circumstances, whatever they are, and say, well, I'm not good enough or worthy enough, but really we're where we're at to be that shining light. I want to thank you once again for being on here
today,
so much.
Sandy. I'm honored.
And I just want to tell our audience out there that, remember, what Jesus did say is that what you do to the least of these, you've also done it to me. So I hope that inspires somebody out there to get in contact with Sandy and get involved.
And thank you in advance.
Now, are we going to shift the show to John? Or are we wrapping it up?
No, stretch it out.
Oh, stretch it out. So, Ken, do you have anything that you'd like to add to the show today?
Yeah, actually, I've killed my lights. Sorry about that. But yeah, this has probably been one of the better shows that we've done in a while, and I'm so glad that we got to meet Sandy and hear her story about what she's doing. And in fact, me broadcasting here from Wisconsin, which is right next to Minnesota, if you were paying attention there.
Where in Wisconsin?
Manitowoc. So I'm all the way on the water.
My sister's in Whitefish Bay.
Oh yeah, okay. So just listening to you and you telling your story has inspired me. We've actually got a brand new shelter down here, which is probably about 6 blocks from me. And I remember a long time ago, I had signed up to do some work at a place that was hosting the homeless. And as fate or providence or whatever occurred, I wasn't able to fulfill that. I had gone through the classes and all that good stuff to kind of do some time, help people out, basically watch the place and check people in and out. And it was the Gulf War. I got called away, so I had to go overseas for a while and come back, and just never did get to do that. So you've inspired me. Your story, your mission, your service to God has inspired me to go ahead and I'm going to go down there and see him this afternoon and see what I can do. So that's a cool thing. Bless you for what you're doing, and thank you so much for inspiring others to do what they can with what they've got.
I think that's the thing too, is that if people, like I'll put on Facebook, I'll let people get to know a homeless, tell their story. And my daughter has a friend in St. Louis. She's an attorney there, and she said that she used to walk past the homeless. Now she carries food in her bag, and she has a little boy, and he has kind of adopted this homeless guy outside of their condo. And they call each other by name and have invited him over for Thanksgiving. And she said, I never would have looked at him before. So it's like, I'm not giving myself the credit, but if people could look at these people as people, and all of a sudden look at them and think, I want to get to know what their story is. And when, as I always say, they didn't grow up saying someday I want to hold a cardboard sign saying, we'll work for food, or will you help me? That wasn't their dream. They had dreams that somehow life squashed. Mm-hmm. And they get to the point sometimes where they don't even remember what their dreams are. So if people could just look at them and if you could just love them for who they are and where they're at, and not expect anything from them. And that's our problem, is we expect stuff from them and we don't get it. So yeah, I'm happy that you're going to go there. I see in every place I go when I travel, I go and serve at homeless shelters. So I'll be in California and I'll go to Glide Memorial. And Francis Chan serves out there. I've served with him. So yeah, I'm called to it all over.
Awesome.
Well,
all right, Gary, how's it going over there?
Well, I believe that's we're going to wrap it up. Let me get back on the camera here. That's going to wrap it up for today's show, but we're looking forward to, on the next one, a new segment with Corey, the founder of Paw Bunks, to be doing Paw Debunks, and we're getting to some myths that we're going to debunk with that. So with that, we thank you once again, Sandy, for being on the show.
Thank you. What an honor.
And we've reached the 15,000 views mark. That's good news as well. So keep spreading the word. Keep telling your friends, family members about it. And, of course, the more views we get, the more popular it's going to get, and the more we can have more people people like Sandy can reach out to and tell them, her story and her message. So we thank you once again, live from Paw Bunks, and we hope to see you next time.
Thank you.